If you look on any Mass Effect forum, you will see, most likely, a lot of people fan casting a possible Mass Effect movie. I've been guilty of that myself, thinking of who I'd cast in what roles. But then, the idea got to my mind. Mass Effect is such a deep series, over 60 hours worth of gameplay, at least, for the entire trilogy. There's no way you could just compress all of that story, all of these characters, everything BioWare has done with Mass Effect into a series of 2-hour movies. So it's got me thinking, what about a TV series? Now, the idea of pitching a TV series to a channel like, say, Sci-Fi Channel, or even HBO, Cinemax maybe, I am not a salesman. So, I figured, why not try it myself? Take the series, the trilogy, and turn the games into a serialized, episodic entertainment series. The process wasn't nearly as easy as some people may think, especially early on. I want to give you a little insight into my creative process and let you see what exactly went in to making the Mass Effect Trilogy for Spectre Studio. Now, the first part of the process was pre-visualization and pre-production, figuring out how I wanted things to go. And if you take a look right here, this notebook, I wrote a lot of notes in here. A lot of it wound up looking like chicken scratch you'd see out of an ER doctor, truth be told. But once I got my ideas down to where I wanted them, I started to outline it all on pages like these, until I had the entire trilogy outlined to where I wanted it. Then I started thinking about how I would go about doing this, how I would record it, which programs I would need, which mods I may need. For example, in Mass Effect 3, I really modded it out a bit more than I would have in Mass Effect 1 and 2. There was a lot of things that were different about Mass Effect 3 that I really think that BioWare could have given you some more options on. So I took the opportunity to do that with mods. One of the things that I thought about was which program would I use to record the entire trilogy with. And I tried a good number of them. OBS, for example, which is one a lot of different YouTubers use, but I settled on Bandicam for a reason. That reason being that I didn't get nearly the FPS hit with Bandicam that I did with OBS and every other program I tried. I was getting roughly about 30 FPS with Bandicam, where I was getting 12 to 15 with OBS instead of Bandicam. So that's why I settled on Bandicam. I did not register or buy the full version of Bandicam for a reason. I'm a security guard. My money is tight as it is. I was doing this on what you would call a ramen noodle budget. So once I got Bandicam installed, once I got the entire trilogy installed and ready to go, modded out Mass Effect 3. I did a couple of playthroughs. I mean, this entire process took months just to figure out how I wanted to do it. I started doing a few playthroughs just to see what I would need to do and how I would go through it. Mind you, I've played the series a lot. Plus, the additional playthroughs gave me the additional armor and levels that I would need to actually make the game a bit easier to where actually recording the game would be nowhere near as difficult as it would be doing a traditional Let's Play where you could get killed all you blasted want to. I'm doing a TV series. I had to make sure this played out perfectly. And doing all this in pre-visualization, trying to figure out everything I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. The first few playthroughs were a trial run before I started recording. And recording, well, I'll get into that in a minute. What you're watching here is footage from an earlier playthrough of Mass Effect 3, one of my first playthroughs with mods, just to see how I wanted to do it, what mods I wanted to use, and how I really wanted to go about this particular playthrough, and the entire series. Recording with Bandicam was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Gameplay to me was a lot easier because I had installed a different mod, a controller support mod, which I also used the one for Mass Effect 1 and 2. I'm more comfortable using a controller, especially the fact of the matter being I've been doing this on a laptop. So the keyboard and mouse controls were more than a little bit awkward. So, yeah, that's a thing. But as you can see, certain things with Shepard, for example, in this playthrough, the hair is different than it is in the series that's being released. That's because I went through at least 4 different hair mods before I figured on the one I wanted. The uniform mods were the same as they were when I started recording the final playthrough, and well, as you can see here, the entire playing process was made easier, for example, using the controller support mod, because I didn't have to worry about the keyboard and mouse interfering with my recording. Another thing that made recording a little bit easier, especially in Mass Effect 2, in certain places, was the use of certain console commands. Now, you would call that cheating, yeah, it is. But the fact of the matter is, I wanted this series to be perfect. I wanted this series to not have to go through a crap ton of reshoots because I kept dying here and there, especially on Horizon in Mass Effect 2, because there are a few battles on that one particular mission that are incredibly difficult, and I wound up dying at least 10 times on. So, yeah. There were occasions where I used console commands to make that particular mission a bit easier, where I wouldn't have to go back and re-record and re-record and re-record all over again. All in all, I was trying to make this as good as possible to give y'all the best possible series that I possibly could. Once I was done with principal photography, editing really was pretty much a snap. I just had to put the different pieces of footage together into the different episodes, as well as coming up with a title card, the disclaimer, which you see at the start of every episode, and the end credits, which I did mostly using JPEGs and a particular piece of music. I did that for Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3. Now, certain different features had different ending music to it. For example, I use a different piece of music at the end of the Overlord DLC feature in Mass Effect 2 than I did for the rest of the series. I also used different music for Omega in Mass Effect 3, and I do believe for Bring Down the Sky, although I'd have to go back and rewatch it just to be sure. Twist my arm. But some things I decided I wanted to do a little bit different than the game, especially in Mass Effect 2. Leading into the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2, I decided I wanted to put, instead of just Shepard looking at that picture of Kaidan, I wanted to do a bit of a flashback montage, and that's where that came from. I put together the footage first, I found the music, and then I lucked up. I found that audio recording done by Raphael Sbarge, the voice of Kaidan Alenko, where he recorded Kaidan's letter to Shepard. Good Lord. You take that footage, put it with the music I had on there, and then you put in that recording. Good God, that hit me right square here. And very little does that these days. But yeah, that's just one of the few things I did a little bit differently than the games did. I wanted to add some things to give the series a bit more character. A bit more character development, you could say. Well, that pretty much explains the creative process that went into making the Mass Effect Trilogy that's being posted here on SPECTRE Studios. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of insight into the mind of me, and I hope you continue to enjoy the entirety of the Mass Effect Trilogy as I continue to present it. Folks, I don't do this for money. I've got a job that pays the bills. I'm doing this because I love Mass Effect. And it's that love for this series and sci-fi in general that I would love to be able to pass on